Hello, my name is Mudinda Mbewana.
And I'm Gabriella Quipman.
Welcome to the Chosen Generation. Today we are discussing broken families. Now there's an inner desire in most of us to come from a family that's loving and nurturing. And that is why it comes as a seismic shock to the system when all these great expectations are shattered or never realized. If the stats are anything to go by, then you either come from a broken family or you know someone close to you who comes from a broken family. Today we explore all the causes of this pandemic. And we also look at how we can ameliorate the situation and much, much more. Gab, do you come from a broken family?
Well, Mudinda, I'm blessed. I do not come from a broken family. Both my parents are still married, and it's me and my little brother.
Well, sad for me, I come from a broken family where my parents got divorced. So I really hope that I will learn something from what we're about to discuss today.
I hope you're also able to learn something from today. Hello, everyone. Joining us today to discuss broken families is Pastor Monet Duplessis, social worker Belinda Groombaum, and psychologist Angie Diale. Today's question is, how can we mend broken families? Please join us in the conversation online by visiting all our social media pages using the hashtag TCG on SID, and please take part in the conversation. Let's keep the conversation going online. But right now, let's start the discussion.
A broken family, I think some they will say it's separation of parents and stuff like that.
I think that would be a family that does not have all the necessary figureheads involved, that being the mother and the father.
It's not separation of families, it's about how we deal with the situation when that thing arises or that particular thing happen. So I think it's about you guys, how you take it after being broken up or something like that.
The first thing is you have to take note of how the family became broken. Sometimes due to certain circumstances, there are certain things you can't overcome. If let's say they lost a father or a mother through something tragic, unfortunately there isn't that much that you can do there. I mean, there could be another person who steps in, and takes up that role.
We are joined by our wonderful guests. Pastor Monet, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Social worker Belinda, it's good to have you here as well. And psychologist Angie, it's also good to have you here.
Okay. All right. I think the best place to start with this topic is to maybe look at a few definitions. I'll start with you, Belinda. What is a broken family? How would you define that?
A broken family is a family that has split or separated due to various reasons, such as divorce, abuse, neglect, or maybe even death.
I don't know, what do you think are some of the causes that can lead to a broken family?
So I think substance abuse can play quite a big role, as well as domestic violence and just conflict in general. But also emotionally detached family members as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
Pastor Monet, so most males believe that if you grow up without a father figure, you tend to be weak. Is this true?
I believe it could be true in various circumstances. The original design of God was that there would be a father and a mother figure in a family. And due to the broken family scenarios that has just been sketched, that isn't always the case. So because of that, the children often grow up without a proper father figure and without the values that the father has been given to them. And that could lead to weakness. But I need to qualify that. It doesn't mean it will always, because one can still have other figures in your life which can play a role in helping you to understand what your role in society and as a father yourself should be. So in most cases it will be, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
maybe you can all share here. And say perhaps there's one thing, if you go out in society, I was listening to a young man saying the reason I am like this is because my father was never there. He never showed me any love. He never cared for me. And you find the instance where many people turn to blame their upbringing for the decisions that they make in their lives. And most of the times, those are bad decisions. What are your views on that?
So I think that one's upbringing plays a very pivotal role.
Okay.
As in early childhood development, this sets the foundation for lifelong learning, behavior, and health.
Okay.
And interaction with the parents also teaches one social skills, such as sharing with one another, cooperating, respecting individuals, as well as belongings.
Okay. Any takes on that?
Most of the time, family members believe that you have to be a certain way.
Okay.
Remember, parenting has no manual.
All right.
Unless you are a Christian who is focused, who knows that there's the owner's manual, and you focus on it entirely, and you handle society the best way that you know possible, following the owner's manual, you'll have a better life. But if you have no idea how to raise a child, the experiences that you go through in your family are supposed to teach you without your parents saying this is the direction. So in most families, especially black families, there's no communication on what is it. We have things that we call norms and values within the family. So the norms of that family might have been dictated to by everybody within the extended family, from your father's family or your mother's family. And your mother or your father's already been given power over your mother, that he's the head and everything he says goes. So once you are married in that family, you come underneath your husband. You must listen to everything he says. You have no opinion. So if you are opinionated as a woman, the extended family doesn't like you. So therefore your children will always be torn between what is the value of the family and what is the norm of the family. Because the father comes with norms, but the value of these two people coming together should be drawn by these two people. So if none of them have a kind of a background that assists them to know where to start, they just live a life where they copycat any other person's life they think is correct. And that would be the beginning of a family life that shows the signs of dysfunctionality, especially with communication.
So, Pastor Monet, I would like to hear your take on that, on what she's saying about the importance of maybe society, but even the church. What role can they play in upbringing children so that we don't have kids who end up in prison and they say that structure was absent and that is why I'm here?
So in the absence of a healthy family nucleus, obviously the community, the church, the entities that you refer to now have to play a role. And in the absence of that, that is where the problems come. So I truly believe that as church, as Christians, and also as community, we can play a role in assisting, especially where broken families are caused not through choice but through circumstances. But even if it's through choice, the children didn't ask for the bad choices that their parents made. So I definitely feel it can play a role. I think it's a vital role, and one that sadly is at times missing. I'd just like to add one thought, and that is that, and I think Belinda referred to it earlier, with the formation years in children's lives, before they can understand an abstract principle like God, the only picture of God they have is through their parents. And God gave us this family as part of His description of His love towards us. So in the absence of a father, or a mother for that sake, the children get an incomplete picture of who God is. And to that end, it's vital, where possible, that we maintain a healthy family nucleus, because we are also in those formative years representing God to them.
Thank you so much for that point that you raised, Pastor Monet. I'd like to say to our viewers, please share your ideas with us, what you think about the topic. The hashtag is on the screen. Let us know what your experiences are in broken families. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We are talking about broken families. Please be a part of the conversation online by using the hashtag TCG on SID on all social media platforms.
All right, I'd like to carry on the conversation here. Maybe I can start with you, Pastor Monet, and maybe move from the normal situation and go to when the child has now grown up and he meets someone and they get married. What do you think the impacts of growing up in a broken family are to the new marriage that is starting?
So your family of origin definitely plays a role, because that is how you model your perceptions of a family. And in that sense, I think it does play a role. And maybe the message is for our young adults also who might be contemplating divorce or separation at this stage, because the effects of that for their children, they are long-term effects. So we mustn't only think in terms of, the young people entering in relationships, but those wanting to or considering divorce, not to do it. But getting back to your question on the impact, it definitely has an impact. And once again, it's a qualified answer. Because although there's an impact, we can still have healthy relationships. The family of origin isn't the only determinant. And I have seen people who have grown up in horrendous families who have beautiful relationships, who have made a cognitive decision and said, I want to have a good relationship. So yes, it is possible, but it becomes very difficult to get out of that spiral or cycle.
Yes, so I like how you mentioned the cognitive decision. So Angie, I would like to ask you, people tend to think that if you're not brought up with both parents in your house, that you are disobedient or you lack something because you're not in a complete family. How true is that?
A lot of people are raised in single families where there's no father, or there's only the father, which is quite a small amount. Most of the time, it's women that are single that are raising children. The bottom line about being raised by a single parent is that if this parent is focused on helping you from the brokenness she has experienced and brings you in and reins you in and has completed a cycle of counseling where her unfinished business from where she comes from, because single parents come from different environments. Sometimes it was a cultural marriage, she couldn't manage the culture of that family, she left. Sometimes it was gender-based violence like she mentioned. There's many multiple issues. But who you are as a person, are you able to recognize the pain that you've gone through? And are you seeking help for it? And he also mentioned, Pastor, that there's different places where you can get help. It might be the church, it might be at a school, it might be that you have decided to study and you start bringing yourself back and you know that you can provide for your children. That gives you peace enough to know that I will forget about what I've messed up and I'll focus on giving my children the best that I've always wanted for myself. So you are relearning new values for yourself and creating them in the family. So some people that are raised in single parent families will definitely be losers because they take advantage, especially boy children where there's no father. They come with information from the street, they come and they start, when they become teenagers, they start questioning how you are directing the family. They also feel that they can be the father of the family. Sometimes a child will actually tell you, this is my house, I'm the father of the family. I'll show you what to do, I know better. And as a parent, you need to surround yourself with good principled people that you can go to. So don't isolate yourself because you feel like you are broken. In so many ways, our entire society, even the best from the best families, have a certain level of brokenness in them.
Well, I think on that point, I should bring in, we haven't forgotten you, Belinda, you're still here with us. I have a question just for you. She's speaking about the brokenness of people, and because they've been broken in the whole lives, and then they bring that brokenness to the marriage. What do you see in practice as a social worker?
Okay, well, in terms of relationships, I think children that have grown up in dysfunctional families, there's a lack of trust between family members. So that plays out in that the person feels insecure in their relationships and they struggle to maintain healthy relationships and sometimes just to form healthy attachments with other individuals. And in terms of mental health, it can also make children feel unsafe in that environment. So as an adult, that can make one experience a lot of anxiety, which can lead to mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder.
I like how you mentioned like the different mental conditions some might experience because of what they've experienced at home. So I think I'd like to ask all of our guests, from the perspective of someone who's in a house where one of their parents are using alcohol, abusing alcohol, are they more likely to do it themselves? Or, so Angie, if we can start with you.
It's a two-phased answer, could be triple. Firstly, a child who's raised up in a household where there's alcohol abuse might hate it so much that it is the one thing all of their lives they're fighting never to indulge in. So they protect themselves. Because what Belinda just mentioned is so important, that how do you find you in a chaotic family that's dysfunctional? I know, for example, that as a child, with the alcohol abuse, the gender-based violence that was in the house, my solace was reading.
Okay.
Because I needed to find something that I could sit tight with, and that has molded and shaped the course of my life and my children's lives. So that's the first thing. The second thing, the person can start drinking alcohol even as a child without the parents noticing, because they are not inclined to checking what the effects of what they're doing is happening to the child. So a child will start by drinking small little leftovers in the bottle and gradually graduate to stealing the alcohol. So by the time a child is 14, 15, they are exploring full explosion of drinking outside, at school, in areas where they are at. And the parents become surprised. When did this happen? Why couldn't we see it? It's because they were not aware at the time. They were just focusing on their fights inside the house. The third thing becomes the fact that you are raised in a dysfunctional family where there's any type of abuse, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol. You, as a child, sometimes don't have the strength to know what to do. And if family members are not assisting, if school does not understand and they take the initiative for you to take care and to send you to a place where you can be assisted, you can certainly find yourself in an environment where you don't know who you are. You want to please everybody. So wherever somebody's taking you, you end up being the worst addict of a family that started with only alcohol.
Thank you so much for that answer, Angie. I think that you made a really important point there that we should really remember. And Pastor Monet?
Yes, I think it's been summarized well. I think exposure to alcohol can lead into both directions, but I'd like to add, for those who might be struggling with it now, that one can break the cycle. It is possible, and I think that's where spirituality and a deep commitment to God comes in, because that's one of the great ways to get out of it. But it is possible. Don't be discouraged. It can be done.
Definitely one can break the cycle. That's a good point to go to an ad break right there. Stay tuned. Continue to share your ideas on social medias. Let us know what you think about this subject. We'll be right back.
Welcome back from the break. You are still watching The Chosen Generation. We are talking about broken families, and we're learning a lot from our guests today. Please interact with us online using the hashtag TCG on SID.
Pastor Monet, I'd like to get your ideas on this. I think when I look at the Bible, I think there are many broken families, but the one that comes to mind is that of Abraham and, Hagar's baby. So I think this is the basis of my problem. I've spoken to many a young person, and they have lost their faith because that person, the elder or the deacon, is the one that beat up the mother, and that caused the broken family. And now they lose their faith completely. So Maybe you can share your ideas on that. How can that young person find their way back to God when those role models that you spoke about earlier have disappointed them so much on the issue of their faith?
Yeah, so to answer the question in brief, the decision that Abraham made had a long-term impact on his family, and that impact is felt 3,000 plus years today. In the current conflict we have between Jews, Christians, and Muslims worldwide. And I use this just as an example how decisions that we make in terms of our family can have a long-term impact. I think that's an extreme example, but in our families there is definitely an impact, sometimes for 1 or 2 or 3 generations. And to that end, it's important that we make good, sound, solid relational decisions, even though it might not be good for us right now. We must look at the long-term consequences. But I think the gist of the question to do with what is the impact of this on young people's faith and how they can restore that faith, that is difficult because when there is, let's call it, I know it's a strong word, but spiritual abuse, that is probably the most difficult abuse to eventually heal from. And I think the church has an important role to play to portray families and obviously the relationship of God with his people through families correctly. So that's the first part. But when that is not done, it is very difficult to then get to those young people and help them to understand that this image of God which you had through this unpleasant experience and reality is different. And I believe it can be done through having a consistent relationship with God. In other words, that our words and our actions that they are
exemplary, if you like.
Exemplary, yes, and that there's no differentiation between the two. And I believe that's the answer. We must preach and live what we preach. There mustn't be that differentiation. But also then to, as I mentioned earlier, invest deeply in those young people's lives. Because often we look at them superficially, we know there's a problem, and then we kind of just leave it. But the more time and energy we invest in them, the more we can realize what their deep felt needs are, and then we can help them on a path or on a road to healing.
I like the part that you mentioned about investing in young people and paying attention to what's going on, you know. And I'd like to ask Angie, so I didn't grow up in the apartheid system. It's been a while afterwards, but you know, there's still effects of it, and we do see it in young people still today. And my question is, you know, most kids are raised by single parents. How did the apartheid system contribute towards this, and how has it affected young people?
One of the most horrible things that has affected families because of apartheid was the system had a way of saying if you get a divorce, you live in a 4-roomed house, you must be removed from that house as a parent and have no privacy. Go to a 3-roomed house where the bedroom is only one. So you stay there with all your children in this one room, you sleep there together, there's the kitchen, there's the lounge. So it's either you make the dining room another bedroom. So the effects of oppression, of not being able to speak your mind, of not able to produce what you are thinking, what you would like to do with your family, has made a greater impact in making our young people so rebellious now, because those that grew up during that time are us. And we are still struggling with wanting to put one foot before the other to get to the goals that we've always aspired and dreamed about and could take nowhere. So our children and their children, our children's children, our grandchildren, are the ones that might have it better, because we are trying to make sure that our children understand that there's an opportunity now. Use opportunities well. So one of the most important things is that thing, that they were moving us around. The fathers were not always around, they were working in different places, women were sitting at home. The second thing was that they were not earning enough. So financially we were not sound. You couldn't finish school and decide where you want to go. You are limited in terms of your education. You want to be a doctor, you must apply to the Minister of Health. If he says no, you can't be a doctor. So there's so many things that we cannot finish them today that have really impacted us because of apartheid.
I think that's very interesting. I want to actually take it from that point and maybe bring the conversation to its end, like the gist, the point of this conversation. And that is, in your practice, Belinda, you obviously deal with these issues. Maybe you can share some ideas. She's spoken about the role that the church can play. But in your practice, what do you do to try and mend the broken families when they come to you? What are the ideas that you share with them to try and assist them in getting over that brokenness?
Well, we would examine the family dynamics within the family and the household, and we would also value each family member's contribution. So even children who are younger, their contribution is still important and will still be considered. It's not the children are seen and not heard generation anymore. Children's views are very important. And we would look at the dynamics within the relationship in terms of communication, in terms of trust, in terms of the ability to maintain healthy relationships and connections. And then we would assist from that point in terms of identifying the strengths within the family as well and working with those. So there obviously will be weaknesses, but we will try and focus more on the strengths and how to get the family to work together and to communicate better and to understand one another so that there's a mutual understanding. And in that process, the family members must also all be committed to the restoration of the family.
That's very interesting. I think we've covered a lot, Gabs, from the beginning of this conversation. Thank you so much to our guests. I think the take-home message here is that we can do something about it. We definitely can solve the problem. There's a role to play for the church and the social workers and psychologists, and there's hope for broken families. And that is how we end today's show. What I've learned about broken families is that they're an indication of our own brokenness. And I'd like to introduce you to one who specializes in healing all those who are broken. Without him, the good can't be good enough, and the bad are too bad to change, and the indifferent cannot be awakened. I'm speaking about Jesus, the one who saves, who sanctifies, and satisfies.
Don't forget to keep your fresh and innovative comments directly speaking about the youth using #TCG on SID, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Sid Media.
See you next week.